Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another Friday Night Live. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Change things up a little less light this week. Not that it matters, whatever. How's everyone doing? Windows open, because it makes it nice and cool in here. Music to Motion's here. What's going on? Michael Elvis is here. What's going on? Hola. Hola. Sorry, I got mesmerized by the tactile zoom. What's going on, DJ Big Red? How's everyone doing? I also saw Nick was here earlier, but he was like here really early, and he dropped a comment, which actually he said, could you do a live stream all about the range functions? Which I think is a really good subject that I need to write down. I have a little list of things here of stuff that I'm going to be making videos of, things we can do live streams of. But I think that's pretty good, going over the range tool, live stream, the range tool. I think we can get really comprehensive, or really in depth with the range tool, because you can do a lot with the range tool. So I think that might be next week. Let's crack that open for everybody. How's everybody doing? Hope you're all doing well. What have you been working on? You saw it pop up in just a second ago, but if you haven't already, feel free to join the Discord, where we check in every once in a while. We open up the voice chat every once in a while and talk one-on-one with the whole group. It's kind of like the midnight bar that happens after this show. We just kind of sporadically like jump into the voice channel. We hang out and talk about stuff there. Billy Morgan's here. What's going on, Billy? Funny how folks can't say hi, Bops. Hey, Bops. DJ Big Red starting off with a question. Off topic, of course. If you don't mind answering, how do I get the arrangement section at the top where the time base is? As soon as we open things up, we'll start with that. It's not hard. It's actually pretty easy. It changed slightly with some of the updates in Studio One, version 5. I think from version 5.1 to 5.2, it changed slightly. Maybe it was 5 to 5.1. I can't quite remember. Whatever. But we'll get into that. So, a bunch of you guys were here last week, and we were going over the perfect vocal chain. For anybody that wasn't here, we're going over this. Here it is. I got to scoot over a little. This is, you've probably seen it on Facebook. You probably have seen it on Instagrams and things like that. This is the perfect vocal chain. I have to remember where the camera is. It's over here. This is good. It's not bad. It's got a lot of useful tips in here. And last week we kind of followed it as suit with the closest things that we had, or that I have available. Obviously in the photo over here, it has auto tune. Then it has FabFilter, which I do have. I use that. And then it's got a whole bunch of compressors and other EQs and things like that. But I think it was Ironweeds who brought it up last week, or it might have been Brian Wallace, of doing this, doing everything you see here, but with stock plugins. And I think that's really important to do, and really important to know. You don't have to have all of the stuff that's in here. You don't even need to use all of the stuff that's in here, but we'll get really close. I have a session open today that we're going to get into. It's something I've mixed. It's already released. I forgot to put the link to it in the description of this video, so I am going to pop it into chat real quick. But I really want to emphasize, while I'm over here and doing two things at once, you don't need all of the tools that you see in this photo. And actually, I'm going to take the photo down now. Hang on. It is right here. This is taking up way too much of the screen anyway. I needed to shrink it down. I'm going to pop a link to the song that's already been released. It's done, but we're going to have some fun with it today anyway. I'm going to pull it open and pop it in the chat. How many times can I say that? Besides, people are still trickling in. I see Thomas is here. I see Kyle's come in. Everybody's saying hi to one another. So all that stuff you see, that you saw in there, it's all third-party plugins, but you don't need to do that. You can do stuff. You can make awesome records with stock plugins. I've done it on stream before. I probably do it again, which I think is probably a pretty good yearly thing to do. I'm just pulling open the link to this. Hang on. I want to make sure it doesn't play. I want to share it. This button, share, copy link. All right, so I'm going to pop this into the chat. This is the song in question. It's in Spotify. Feel free to click it later. I'll probably post it again at the end of the show. This way, you can support. It's from a songwriter called named Paul Guarino, and then he and I co-produced it. I did all the instrumentation minus the keys and the lead guitar. He did the keys because he's a keyboardist. The lead guitar was done by a buddy of mine named Tommy Hayes, and the vocals were done by we hired him out to a vocalist who chose to go uncredited for this one. So I'm going to continue that, but he did an awesome job. But that's what we're going to mess with today. Is we're going to create the perfect vocal chain for this song. Now, I'm saying perfect. The perfect vocal chain is the vocal chain that works for the song. Serve the song. Do what the song is telling you to do. That's the most important thing. The things we see in the cheat sheet, which I'll pull open again, they make sense. You want to do your tuning first. This absolutely makes sense. Do your tuning first. Why don't I just do this? If I slide some things over. Do your tuning first, because any processing before tuning can throw off the algorithms and the detection for tuning. Then you do your cleanup EQ. You get rid of the stuff that you don't want the compressor to react to. De-essing after that first compressor. The first compressor is for tone. Yeah. Then de-esser after that. Maybe save that to the end. You don't necessarily have to. Follow that up with tonal EQ. That's where you can boost things in. Use some of the the tonal kind of EQs. We're going to be using a lot of fat channel today, so something like the vintage EQ or the passive EQ, things like that. Another compressor to control dynamics. Also makes sense, get it into place, and that's where you live. Then followed up by saturation, which again, you don't have, it's not distortion. You're not crunching these things. You're doing a little bit of saturation, maybe. And then at the end, resonance suppression. With all the other stuff you would have done, you're at that point, do you really need to do any of that resonance suppression? Maybe a touch more EQ just to pull out a little thing here and there. You don't need to do all of these things. You don't. We'll do a bunch of them though. Lollipop Guild is here. Hello, Retro Vel. What's going on, Retro? I always use the fat channel because I am. Well, honestly, I work with a bunch of students, a bunch of you guys. Whenever I'm showing somebody stuff and I'm using stock plugins, I lean towards the fat channel. It has the basic compressor in it, but it also has the tube comp and the fat comp, which that comes in with the fat channel. Everybody who has fat channel has that. And everything we're going to be doing is going to be good for the artist level users and the pro level users. There'll still be a bunch of things that prime level users can benefit from, or users of other DAWs as well, because you can do it with the stock plugins of any DAW. Doesn't matter. But I always lean towards fat channel because of the versatility of it. You have different EQs. It can be just a standard. You have different compressors. You do have the gates and a high pass filter built in. It's a channel strip. That's exactly what it is. It's a fat channel. That's why I tend to use that more, because it has those characteristic options within it. You guys ready? You want to get into this? We'll create the perfect vocal chain. I figured as much. This is the mix session, but I've gone in and I've taken off all of the vocal processing I did for the original mix. The vocals came in tuned, but I think we should talk about that first. Yes, you should do your tuning first. Also, I don't know what this is. Oh, guitarists, that's fine. You should do your tuning first, because any processing can, as we said before, can throw off the detection of the vocal, of the tuning process, excuse me. If you're using Pro, you have Melodyne. Maybe you've already purchased Melodyne. If you're using Artist or Pro, perhaps you have Auto Tune or some type of tuning plugin that you can throw in first. I think last week we used Waves Tune. These vocals are already in tune, so we're not going to worry about that, but you should do that first. Let's get into this. First things first, it was DJ Big Red asking how to view the arranger track. Okay, so the arranger track, and DJ Big Red, you know what you didn't tell me? Is to go into my system preferences and to turn up the mouse. So let's get in here. Come on. Make that mouse big for you guys. Big mouse. I forget where's zoom. Pip. I don't know why the zoom's not working. And there it goes. Oh, that should be... Okay, whatever. And then this one. Keycaster. Thank you. Keyboard shortcuts. Not that we're going to be doing a lot of shortcuts today. Blame that on music to motion. No, I think this one is going to have to be you, DJ. Just this time. Keyboard shortcuts are going to be here on the left side of the screen. Okay, so he was talking about viewing the arranger track. We'll get into this real quick, and then we'll do our perfect vocal chain. So when you're looking at your session, what you want to be doing is find this little area up here, which is, you know, near where the inspector is and everything like that. Let's get the mixer out of here real quick. So the plus is the tracks, but the little stack and the break, this is your different timelines that you can be looking at. You can look at your ruler track, your marker track, your arranger track, your chord track, your signature track, which is like your key signatures and things like that, and your tempo track. So you can see I am looking at the arranger track. I can click here, turn it off, come back in, turn it on, and I can view all of these things. If I really need to, I'm going to turn these all off. But now I'm looking at all of the additional views in just your main edit window. It is a one-off. It's not like you can just like click and drag to turn these things on or off. We had it as marker and arranger. So here's our session. Here's our vocals. These are the ones we're going to be working with. Don't worry about the background vocals. Honestly, I have them muted, especially in the bus here. I just have everything muted. I don't know. I have it muted on the channel, so it doesn't matter the tracks. I just took all of the backgrounds out. We're only going to be messing with the lead vocals. And what we're going to be doing is, let me remind you, we're going to be building this. This is our cheat sheet. So I'm going to say it again. Tune your vocals first. Okay? Tune your vocals first. Anything you do might throw off the algorithm. Then you follow it up with some surgical EQ. In this instance, we're going to use Pro EQ. And if you're if you have a different EQ that you want to use, by all means use it. But like I said, we're using stock plugins. So I'm going to lead it off with my lead vocals, and I'm probably going to go here to the chorus and maybe the pre-chorus and chorus. There's little lead-ins. I think we'll kind of work just in this area. So we'll go to Pro EQ, and we'll throw one of these in. And with something like FabFilter, you can throw a bunch of different instances, or excuse me, bunch of different nodes in. With Pro EQ, obviously you only have your 5 bands and your high and your low cut, but there's nothing saying that if you need to do even more surgical EQ, you couldn't follow this up with another instance of Pro EQ. We're not doing that today, but you absolutely could. Right? Right. So let's clean up these vocals. Before we do anything, let's listen to these vocals. I do have some effects going on, and you're going to hear that just because I think I know there's automation going on in this song as well because I mixed it. And this, like I said, this is the mix session, but let's listen. We've done nothing with Pro EQ. It's just there. Let's listen first. very well recorded vocal, dynamic, consistent though. But we'll make him more consistent, but that's later. So we'll just do a little bit of cleanup, a little roll off, and we'll kind of solo out the lead vocal. Everybody's hearing everything okay, right? It should be. Everything's fine. It's been fine for a while. Let's just get a little closer.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
So there's a little bit of buildup right in this area, this 550 area for me. I'm just going to tighten it up because this is going to be surgical cleanup EQ. Excuse me.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky. We had a good life. We had a good life.
Right there, 872 is where we are with that one. Nice and tight, just a tiny, tiny little bit. And these are not big moves we're making. 3 dB over here, 3 dB over there. Really not a big deal whatsoever. So.
And we felt like we could fly.
I don't want to do too much of a cut down in these low mids, because that's like where a lot of the body is living. I just want to cut a little bit of these like actual mids just to get rid of a little bit of nose. The breeze is going. If the wind is too much, just let me know.
And we felt like we...
See, like that's all the body and warmth of him. I don't want to get rid of this. So I'm not going to worry about that. Let's put that back to 0.
And we felt like we could fly. And we felt like we...
Maybe a little whistly here, but honestly, if I'm going to do anything, teeny, teeny, tiny. This is why. I should just change this to 6 dB. Now it looks like I'm doing a lot more. I'm not.
And we felt like we could fly.
Cool, right? This is the EQ for this vocalist. This isn't the exact numbers you should be doing for your vocalist. It's just saying, clean up some of the stuff you don't want. Because our next step, and we'll pull open our cheat sheet, is, it's a little hard to see, I guess, compression for tone. And there's 2 options that you can do here. We are going to use the fat channel like we were saying before. I like the fat channel. It gives us lots of different options. So if you have just the standard fat channel and you want to compress for tone, you go to your compressor, and I would suggest going with the tube comp. This has lots of tone, it has control, it's nice and slow. If you are a Presonus Sphere member, or you just have purchased the Fat Channel collection, another fantastic option would be the Everest C100A, or one of my favorites is the Tube CB. This thing is a great compressor. Let's start with something everybody has. Let's start with the Tube. Right? We all have it. So we're going to turn our compressor on, and we're going to ignore the EQ for now, but according to our cheat sheet, well, we have to DS after this, so we'll see what we could do. But in theory, especially after the de-esser, it's tonal EQ and then dynamic compression. Why throw on even more instances of fat channel when you can change the order? It's just ideas. Okay, let's do a little bit of tonal compression.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky. And we felt like we could fly. And we felt like we could fly.
We're doing a little bit. I think I want just a touch more.
And we felt like we could fly. And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
So we're just kind of balancing him out. It's a nice, slow musical compressor. Yes, the recording levels are relatively low, which is why I have to turn the gain reduction knob way up more, but not bad, right? I think this is pretty cool. Nice and vibey. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, vocals buried in the mix here. Sounds nice soloed. Maybe some 5K air bops. Maybe when we get to our tonal EQ, we'll take care of that. But I would say this is now nicely compressed. Let's do a quick before and after.
And we felt like we could fly. And we felt like we could fly.
Maybe a slight volume bump by like a dB or two. Not even that much. Even, little cleaner, that's what we need. Then it would say go for de-essing. Now, there is no de-esser plugin inside Studio One, but you could just throw on the stock compressor. And there is a preset underneath vocals called de-esser S1. Doing this turns on the internal sidechain and kind of puts it into bandpass mode. And so it's looking anywhere between 6K and 12K, and it will do its compression in there. So you have this option. I've used this before. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but let's try and dial some stuff in. But I'm going to be honest, there's not really a lot of S's that are like really jumping out at me right now that I think need to get handled. But we'll listen.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
I think he de-essed it when he was recording it. Because if we listen, and I know I can go over here, there's not a ton going on. So in this perfect vocal chain, we don't need de-essing. Not now, anyway. So we're kind of debunking this perfect vocal chain as well. We'll leave this in here just in case something gets away. And I don't even want to mess with the threshold because I don't think it's really doing anything. And I need to single click to make that go away. There it goes. I'm just going to jump around to see if there's something else.
Raised our girls and you were my wife.
He purposely recorded this very warm, and that's what we wanted. That's what we asked him to do, and he delivered perfectly.
We were happy, we had a good life.
Again, not really worried about it.
Made our home a beautiful place. How I miss the sight of...
Ignore that little hiccup there. That's why. Need to put my processing up a little bit more. I don't know why that was at 1024. Should have been at 2048. This line.
How I miss the sight of your face.
Maybe that one a little bit. I'm not even worried about it. Let's move on to our next thing. Looking at our cheat sheet. Now our tonal EQ. Here comes the fat channel again. Right? Because the next two steps are tonal EQ and then dynamic compression. So why don't we do exactly that with the fat channel and the swap button. By default, the fat channel goes compressor into EQ, but this button in the middle swaps the location. So now the EQ is first and then the compressor. So we can use one instance with the two functions built in. Why not, right? I know you guys are all screaming at me saying, yeah, Tim, you talked about that before. I know. All right, so let's go with tonal EQ. And there's a lot of good options if you have standard fat channel. Vintage EQ. This is based on a 1084. a Neve 1084, because it's 4 bands. The 1084 was a little bit different, but essentially this is a Neve style EQ. If you want tonal EQ, go with a Neve EQ. If you have the full fat channel collection, there's lots of other options that you could do. Depending on the vocal, you can use a passive. This is kind of limited though, because it's like lows and highs. If you wanted something with a little bit more, maybe tube EQ, but again, it's relatively limited. These two controls are linked, peak and low frequency. So I can pick what the frequency is and how much I want to add. Then dip, pick my frequency and cut that frequency with this control here. And again, with the peak, with just the top end. But this is like the mid range, like low mids, mids, high mids. So boost, cut, boost, as opposed to passive. You also have vintage 3 band. This is essentially a 1073, the EQ section of it. You could use the VT1. There's lots of good options. A Solar 69. There's so many good options. But like we did before, we're going to be inclusive. We're just going to use vintage EQ, because if you have fat channel, you already have this. And now let's listen and see how we can enhance this vocal. This is our additive EQ. Let's go back to the lines we were working on before.
And we felt like we...
So I do want a little bit of shine to them, so I can just go right up to the high shelf and just add a touch. And honestly, with this EQ, a little can go a long way.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
When we're adding EQ, you should do it in the track. So we'll take this out of solo.
And we felt like we could fly. And we felt like we could fly.
So there's a little bit of like harshness at this 4.8, but he's too present at 3.2, and I'm going ridiculously crazy here. I'm very heavy-handed just to like really poke it out so you guys can hear it.
And we felt like we could fly.
I've reset that. Let's go really heavy-handed on the low mids, which, mind you, the low mids go 1.6K. That's its highest, and then it goes down to 360, excuse me.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
So you can hear the different areas that this is hitting. These are all very musical, and they have their uses, but with this vocal, we have to find out what the best vocal is, or the best use and the best range is, because we can only select these specific EQ bands. I see E-Nice is here. I see Bop is talking to Chappie, I think. Everybody's saying hello. Okay, cool. Everybody's learning stuff. You're kind of quiet in the chat today. It's because you're learning. I love that. Music to Motion does not like the 300 range. No, this 360, not going to work it here. And the 700 is a little too nasally. It's like adding too much nose, but I kind of like the 1.6 because of that little bit of telephone. Obviously, right now, we're extraordinarily exaggerated, but just a little bit more. Let's go to 1.6.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
Not bad. We only need a little bit, and then we just need them to kind of come from those speakers a little bit more. So I'm just going to mess around with this 4.8, around 5K.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky. We had a good life.
Not bad. If we need to, we can add some extra warmth in, because we can use the low frequency, which we haven't done at all. Sorry, I forgot to mute the watch. Getting text.
And we felt like we could fly.
I'm not even going to do any low frequency. It's not helping us at all. The S's come out. Good thing. Yeah, so that's what that 5K-ish is going to do, is a little bit of presence, a little bit of forward, just kind of pulling them out of the speakers a little bit.
And we felt like we could fly.
Let's pop him into solo, and we'll turn this on and off. Right now, we have it off. We'll listen in solo, and then we'll pop it back in.
And we felt like we could fly. And we felt like we could fly.
So a little nasally, a little telephony, but forward. He's coming out of those speakers a little bit more, and he's kind of finding a home within the track. In solo, it sounds interesting, but when in the track, it kind of blends him in, but still puts him a little bit forward. Secret's here. Sorry to get in so late. This week has been crazy. It's been bat wing crazy. Yes, honestly, Secret, me too, bud. Me too. So we've done this. Now we need to follow this up with dynamic control compression. Cheat sheet, ready? Cheat sheet. Right after our tonal EQ. Cool. We're gonna stay right in here. We're gonna go to the compressor. We could use stock. Why do that? We can use our old friend, the FET compressor. Other great options for dynamic control. The Comp 160 is going to be really good. The VT Comp is not going to be bad. RC 500 I haven't messed around with enough. For vocals, yeah. So for vocals, for dynamics, I would either use the FET, or if you have the Fat Channel Collection, the Comp 160. We're going to be inclusive, and we're going to go with the FET. Is Michael Alvis asking something? Which comp in the Fat Channel is LA2A model? The Tube. The Tube is the LA2A. And then the FET is the 1176. Thank you, Robert, for answering that for Michael. Does the Pultex style EQ have a different sound than the standard EQ? 1,000,000% it does. Yes. The passive EQ is based on a Pultex, and how Pultex work is they affect, even though you're adding or boosting top end or low end, it's still affecting the entire frequency spectrum that's going through that that unit, that EQ, because of the way that a passive EQ works versus an active EQ. I have a video explaining how passive EQs work, and I'm using both the Fat Channel passive EQ, and I think I use the Universal Audio Pultex emulation as well. But I go over passive EQs versus active EQs. Great question, though. What do you say? You guys want to control some dynamics? Cool. These are like two very fast things I always do. I very frequently do for vocals. Slowest attack and the fastest release on a FET style compressor. Because even at its slowest, it's still really fast. But that's what this is meant to do. It's dynamic control. It's put you in your place. This is where you're going. So I'm actually going to bring the output down and bring our input up a little. Fixed threshold, you have to push the input to get more, or adjust the input to get more or less compression, and adjust the output to balance so that you're not getting this massive volume bump. Honestly, what I should do is set this as the default for my FET comp, because the default that they have, or that Presonus gives, is good. It's just not what works for me. Okay, so let's dial in some compression.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky. We had a good life.
Big volume bump there, so we'll just kind of balance things out with the output. But we've adjusted our input to get a couple dB of reduction.
And we felt like we could fly. up to the sky. We had a good life.
Okay, and then let's check it in the track.
And we felt like we could fly.
Honestly, like listening now, that kick drum is real crazy. I think I may have knocked something on my fader port, because that kick drum sounds a little ridiculous right now. So we'll just kind of compensate by just driving the output of the compressor a little bit to get those vocals a little more forward.
And we felt like we could fly.
Okay, in solo, bypassing everything we've done so far. So here's what we started with.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
Secretary asked a question that he may have asked before, but is it functionally possible for Presonus additionally purchase effect plugins to be used in other DAWs as well? Only for Ampire and the Fat Channel. If you have the full versions of Ampire and the Fat Channel XT, you can use a Presonus hub to download them as I forget what extension. They're either VSTs or they're audio units or something like that, but only those plugins are available to use in other DAWs. The stock ones, generally speaking, and it's the same for the other manufacturers and other DAWs as well, is like I just recently downloaded Logic onto this machine for another client who was having some difficulty just giving me the stems. So I was like, just send it to me. I'll just get the Logic demo. I can't use the native Logic plugins in Studio One. So am I mixing with reverb on? Yes, because I have automation. So the sends are all still active, so you are still hearing that. Here's our before.
And we felt like we could fly.
And our after.
And we felt like we could fly.
And our effects, like Music to Motion was just saying. Sometimes because this is a mix session that I already did, that's why I left the effects on. If you want, I can turn them off. I don't think it's really going to change anything, but it shows how all of these changes affect our effects, like our reverbs and everything as well, because it alters the sound feeding into those. So it's kind of important to still have them on. Let's check our cheat sheet. Saturation. This can be a lot of fun. If anybody that didn't see it, we're now in this column, all the way on bottom. Saturation. Stock plugin for that. Red light. Red light. Distortion. Now, red light distortion. Yes, it's red light distortion. Saturation on, especially a vocal, doesn't mean crunchy, distorted. It means warm. It means a little bit of harmonics added. So we have to kind of remember that. Hazelman, can you help me with this? I have an 1810C. I just updated Universal Control, and now it shows these options. Studio Live, 32.2, 32 by 4x4 AI, and Studio Live, but not 1810C. Hazelman, that is very interesting. That it's showing you those, but it's not showing you your thing. Hazelman, have you tried? And I'm just gonna guess here. I'm not an expert at this, or at least like with Presonus devices. But what I would do is I would Universal Control open and the interface on, and then with the interface on, obviously you don't have the right thing in Universal Control. Unplug the USB. and then plug it back in and see if your computer recognizes that you've unplugged it and plugged it back in, that it knows what the thing is. Because you might just need to reinstall universal control so that it recognizes the right thing. Depending if you're running on Mac or Windows, I would just check, like if you're running on Windows, you can check your device manager and see that it recognizes it, or your sounds settings that, again, your peripherals, you can check that your Windows machine has been, is seeing the correct thing. If you're running on Mac, you just open up Audio MIDI controls, or the Audio MIDI manager, or Audio MIDI setup, excuse me. And then it should see your 1810C that way. If not, you may have to reach out to Presonus, or you can just try reinstalling the Universal Control application. Maybe something got messed up in the install. That's what I would recommend. Let's catch up with you guys real quick. Well, I like the fact that you're choosing not to use things as well. Yeah, you don't need to use everything all the time. Just because things are on, and I'm going to go here because I'm going to pull it up. Just because things are on the cheat sheet doesn't mean you have to use them. We have the de-esser in, but it's not actively doing anything. Especially where it is in the chain. We don't have any extra top ends in that area to get rid of. Right now, anyway. In other songs, yeah, maybe we do need it. Let's get this cheat sheet out of here. Hey, where can I find the cheat sheet? Where can you find that cheat sheet? It's usually all over Instagram and Facebook and everything. This cheat sheet, I forget exactly who put it in, but if you search for MIDI sick, right here is MIDI SIC. If you just do a search for that, like MIDI sick vocal mixing cheat sheet, you'll be able to find this image. It's usually making its cycles around Instagram and Reddit and all the other ones. So I hope that helps, Retro. Let's see. I think we're all caught up. Looks like I ran out of disk space for recording over here, so I'll just pull it off of YouTube later because I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna cut it down. Okay, saturation on a vocal. We just want some warmth. We want some harmonics. So we can change our style. Maybe a soft tube, just a little bit of drive, nothing too crazy. We can even roll off some stuff and maybe even blend it in, but we're just gonna put it straight on and see what we can do. We are soloed, so.
And we felt like we could fly.
Clearly we're not going for that sound.
And we felt like we could.
But what we are gonna do is I'm gonna put the drive at about half, 5.5. The scale goes up to 11, so yeah, 5.5, why not? I'm going to put it up to about here, and we're just going to change our different types real quick to hear what the different types are doing to this vocal, and then we'll find the one that gives the best kind of saturation, and then we'll dial in how much of it we're going to have. So drive it a little, see what it's doing, see if you like it, and then blend it in.
And we felt like we...
Not bad. Let's try hard tube.
And we felt like we...
I'm scared of bad tube. I might stop this one real fast.
And we felt like we could...
Actually not terrible. It breaks up just a little bit. Transistor might be the one I go for.
And we felt like we could fly.
That's pretty nice. Everybody remember transistor. I'm calling it now. I think we're going to go with transistor. Fuzz.
And we felt like we could fly.
Very subtle with fuzz. Let's try op amp.
And we felt like we could fly.
Okay, even more subtle. So that's essentially how it is. Like your tubes are a little bit more saturation, your transistors, your fuzz, and your op amps a little bit less. Let's try op amp, but we'll push a little bit more.
And we felt like we...
And then let's try transistor at the same kind of level.
And we felt...
Okay. There are differences. There are differences. I kind of think op amp might be the way to go. A little matter of taste. Yeah, it really is a matter of taste. Music and Motion is going to step away for a few minutes. That's totally fine. You'll be back in a couple minutes anyway. That's cool. Let's go with op amp. And now, again, let's just check some things. Let's go with our stages. As you get more stages, it's more levels of saturation. Honestly, we're probably going to stick with one because we don't want... This isn't like a heavy metal song or something with like a screamy vocalist. This is a gentle, soft song. So we kind of just want like a little bit of console saturation, something like that, which maybe we could do with some mix effects on the bus. You never thought about that, did you?
And we felt like we could fly.
Okay, let's do it before and after.
And we felt like we could fly. And we felt like we could fly.
Extraordinarily subtle. There's a little bit of saturation going on. There is. Maybe I'll put a touch more. Bypass.
And we felt like we could fly. And we felt like we could fly.
To me, this is too much, especially in solo. I'm going to drop it down a little. I could even blend with the mix over here, but I don't think I need to. And now we'll listen to it in the track.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky. We had a good life.
Bops can hear the compressor. It might be hitting a little hard. Did you hear it in solo or did you hear it in the track? Because if you don't hear it in the track, then the average listener really will not hear it in the track. And that's something you have to remember. Secret, would you be so kind as to A-B the op amp and another amp? Oh, sure, Secret wants a little bit more description of what I'm hearing when we switch between the two. Not a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate red light district. I'm just going to change this op amp to transistor. And let's go a little crazy with both of these. So I'm going to put this one in bypass. This is our transistor over here. And here is our op amp over here. Remember these settings. You know what? Let's just do this. Let's do another copy, because why not? Okay. All right, we're going to bypass that one. We're just going to turn it off. And here's... Okay, right? Let's make sure everything's in order. Red light 3, red light 2. Okay, so this is our op amp, and we're just going to go full blast with both of these. Let's listen to what op amp is doing when there's too much. Secret, I will say this. Listen to what it's doing. So let's bypass both of these and listen to the vocal.
And we felt like we could fly up.
And now let's listen to the op amp at a ridiculous setting.
And we felt...
Too ridiculous. I'm going to reduce it down.
And we felt like we could fly.
In the op amp, I'm hearing a lot of low mid, saturation, and it's not really affecting the top ends. The mid-range clarity is there. It just has this nice warm kind of saturation that I'm hearing with op amp. Listen again.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
So I purposely let the extra line come in because I knew the notes went up and he had more top end in his vocal, especially when he says up to the sky. And so he has those S's in there and he gets to the top ends, but there's not nearly as much saturation up there. It's really in the lows and everything that's going on down there. So we take off op amp and we kind of reduce transistor to a very similar kind of thing. And now we listen to transistor.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
So this to me has way more of that mid-range saturation that's going on. It's not taking away from his vocal. It's not really taking away the intelligibility, but a lot of that mid-range, the nasal kind of areas, that's what's getting saturated with transistor in the way we have it set up right now. We can adjust a lot of these things, but I just, like you were saying, Sakura, you wanted these things, you wanted to be able to hear these differences for me to explain them. So to me, I'm hearing transistor to be more mid-range kind of area, like that vocal mid-range, not taking away intelligibility. So it's kind of like in 800 to 1K-ish. And those are really rough numbers for transistor. And then op amp is definitely down in like the low mids. So here's op amp again.
And we felt like we could fly. And we felt like we could fly.
That's the two of them back to back. You can hear there are differences, and they have their uses. And then once you learn these, this is what we did before. We kind of pushed them too far. You dial them in. You pull it back. You use your mix knob. Like maybe you like transistor. You want a little bit of that mid-range, but obviously this is too much. Well, I'll take my mix all the way down and let's blend it in.
And we felt like we could fly.
There's about 20% mix. You know, it's mostly dry with a little bit of the saturation in here. And you can choose to do it this way. You're driving more, but only allowing so much through with your mix knob. It's certainly an option you could do. I hope that explains things, Sakura. Thank you so much. That helps so much. I'm thrilled to hear it. We're going to go back to the one we had. I'm going to take these other guys off of here. And now, the last thing on our cheat sheet is resonance suppression. And resonance suppression, especially in the image down here, is something like this one uses Soothe as its reference. There's also Baby Audio has the Smooth operator. There's also there's another one out there. Obviously Soothe and Soothe 2. I can't remember what the other one is. There's another free option out there actually that does a very similar kind of thing. But like at this point, really assess things within your mix. Maybe you need a little bit of suppression, but for this, maybe you just need a little EQ at the end just to get rid of something that is poking out too much at this point. And you listen in the mix.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
So right there and up to the sky, there's just a tiny little like low resonance going on for me. So I'm just gonna throw open another Pro EQ.
Up to the sky. Up to the sky.
That one. Right there. It's at 500 hertz again. So I just want to cut a little bit of that.
Up to the sky.
So there you go. A little bit of reduction on an EQ at the end. And what am I doing? 2.7 dB of reduction. This is static. There is no dynamic EQ option in Studio One, at least yet. Do I know of anything coming? No, I don't. But this is just static, so it's over the entire vocal. There are other options you can do. If you are running Pro, you could do some multi-band dynamics and just kind of smooth everything out. Now, actually, that's the crossover. That's what that is. I edit all relative. Cool. Yes, that's what I was looking for the other day, because I actually wanted to do something very much like this, which is going to be coming up in a video very soon. And now that I've looked at it here live with you guys, it's definitely going to be in the video soon. So you can do a little bit of multi-bands. Let's get this Pro EQ into bypass. A little multi-band dynamics at the end.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
And all this is doing is just kind of taking out some of those peaks in different vocal ranges, because the vocal's moving around. I don't want to crush everything again with another thing of another just, you know, all frequency compressor. I can use a multiband and just go, well, he's doing a little bit more here, so let's just squeeze that guy down a little bit. And he's doing a little bit more up in the top end now, so let's squeeze that guy down a little bit. Just do a little bit, even with the stock settings. And I just edit all relative and brought the threshold down. Just touching a tiny bit of compression. That's it. And then we can even make this nice and gentle with a really soft knee. Maybe a little bit more.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky.
Just a touch. A teeny tiny touch. No, I don't care about that. That's what I cared about. Just the tiniest little bit. But really what I might do is this. I'm going to store this as an effect chain. I'm going to take off and put back on Pro EQ. What's going on here? Get back in. Okay. I am going to store this as stock fat channel vocal chain Insta. I'm not going to worry about any of that. Now on my other channels, because these are all the same vocalist, and he just multi-tracked it. Now I have the vocal performance that I had in the original mix, or something very similar.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky. We had a good life. We had a good life.
So now all of my vocals from the same vocalist with all of the layers, minus the background vocals, which I just put in at the very last go of the chorus there. I don't need to change these things because it's the same vocalist. It's the same performance. The background vocals will probably be different because he's singing in different registers. He's singing different notes to create chords and everything. But for my vocal lead, my vocal double, and my vocal doubles in the chorus, which are spread out to the left and right to create the width, it's all the same. I can drag and drop all of these things or create an effect chain like I did and pull it over. And now all of them have it. And then what we can do is we can go to our bus, and you guys know I love using buses, and over here I can throw multiband dynamics dynamics and just control all of those vocals, which are going to build up in the same relative areas, and do a little bit of control over here. This is huge.
And we felt like we could fly up to the sky. We had a good life. We had a good life.
And now all of my vocals, which have been bussed together, are now getting just a little bit more control when they poke out a little too much. This is great. This is something I'm using way more. Excuse me. So what are you guys thinking so far? Sounds pretty decent, right? It's got all the tools we need with stock plugins. Pro EQ, a couple instances of fat channel. We threw on another compressor for some de-essing, but we didn't do any because you don't have to do all of the things. Little resonance build-up EQ at the end. No bus compression. Not channeling at all. Truly just curious. I just did it, Secret, but I did it with multiband dynamics. I just did some vocal bus multiband dynamics, so that is compression on my bus. Mika's here. Mika, you just missed the best thing, dude. Mika. No, it's fine, man. Let me scroll up and catch up with you guys real quick. The last few messages I remember was when we were talking about saturation. Boop, doop, boop, boop. Okay, yeah, here we go. Vocals are right there. See, Bops, he heard the compression when we were listening in solo. So that's something to keep in mind, is when you're doing these things in solo, they may or may not sound good. Like Bob heard the compression on the vocals when we were in solo. But when we were listening in the track, you don't hear it as much. You can use that to your advantage. You can do stuff and push the limits a little bit more, because in the track, if it sounds good, nobody's going to know any otherwise. They're not going to be saying like, oh, a little bit more. They'll notice it if it's like a crazy amount. But if it's subtle and maybe a little bit of pumping, as long as it's not crazy. Boop de boop boo. Secret appreciated the saturation talk that we had. What does Soothe do, Bops? Soothe is, I'll show you. Let me open it up. I do have it. Soothe is an extraordinarily powerful tool. So I'm on my lead vocal channel right now. And what this is it will listen to the entire frequency spectrum. You can see here's the frequency spectrum up on top. And this is essentially an EQ going into the detector circuit. That's what all these nodes are. And there's a little presence boost right here. And the depth knob. These are the important controls of Soothe. The depth is how much resonance it's going to reduce down. And you can listen to it by going into delta mode. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to solo. I'm going to show you what it does.
And we felt like we could fly.
So you saw all these little dips. They're just kind of tucking stuff out of the way. And it's not even doing that much because the scale over here is -3. So we're not doing a lot. It looks like a lot, but the scale is so small that it's not doing that much. And I think if I go to delta, you hear what it's listening to.
And we felt like we could fly.
So those are the frequencies that Soothe is listening to and reducing actively and dynamically. And the depth is how much it's doing that reduction by. So if I take it out of delta, where we're not listening, that delta is essentially listen to your sidechain. Depth is how strong. If I can turn this all the way up.
And we felt like
I'm like killing it. All of that like nice telephony front top end presence is gone now because it's getting reduced by soothe. Also, the EQ leading into it isn't helping.
And we felt like we could fly.
There's too much of the original vocal getting detected by soothe and getting pushed out of the way because our depth is all the way up. But if we bring this way down, so like here's standard, but if we bring this down, it's not going to do as much.
And we felt like we could fly.
Again, just smoothing it out, soothing the sound.
And we felt like we could fly.
Not a lot going on. So our depth is how much reduction of these frequencies that could be harsh resonances are being reduced down by. So that's the overall functions of soothe. We're not going to use it though, because I don't think we need it. But that's what it does. Gullfoss is something very similar. That's another one of these dynamic EQs, or like actively dynamic EQs. Gullfoss, soothe, smooth operator. I can never remember the name of the free one. There is a free one out there. But you could always just join the Discord server, where I'm sure we'll share it. So there's a link in the description of this video if you care to join the Discord. Catching up with you guys again. Can't warrant the cost of soothe or Gullfoss or FabFilter. They are investments, and that's the way I always tell students and cohorts and you guys is these are investments. You are investing in these tools to help you perform your job better. Do I use soothe a lot? No, but I have it because it's a tool, and I have used it before because I needed it to help get through that sound or help achieve the sound I was going for. Hang on, I'm catching up. The chat's jumped way down though. Bobs, don't worry, man. I'm thrilled that you're enthusiastic. It means that you're actually like interacting and learning stuff and using it in your productions, I hope. No bus compression. Oh, right, that's where Secret was. I learned the resonance idea. Nice. Sounded very good. I was listening. Thanks, Mika. Mika, huh? The reason that I asked is that to my novice ears, Secret, we'll get you there, bud. The beautiful voice where he goes into the life, it feels like the dynamics really jump out and pop up to him. They probably do. Let's listen in the track.
We had a good life. We had a good life.
It comes through a little, but it's one of the reasons that it is coming through a bit more is it's kind of the only thing in that note range. So nothing else is really conflicting with it. So it really kind of comes forward. That's one reason. Are the dynamics there and he's actually pushing a little bit more because of the chorus? There's that too. And there might be some automation going on in this mix session to actually bring that forward a little bit more. I can't remember. Catching up. Ziggy! What's up, Ziggy? Ziggy, Music to Motion stepped out a little bit. If you can, and if you're the host, go ahead and drop a link to the Midnight Bar, which is going to be happening in a little while, into the chat so that some people can hang out and ask questions over there. I think that's what you guys have so far. So this is what I want to do for you guys. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this because I'm going to check some stuff real quick. But we made this using just stock plugins. Wouldn't it be cool if you guys had it too? That's why I'm going to head over to the Presonus website. And you know what? Because you guys are all awesome, I'm going to upload this chain to the Exchange so that you guys can pull it into your own sessions. And while I'm doing all of this, by all means, please, please, please drop some more questions into the chat. I'm happy to answer them because you guys are cool. Hang on, I'm getting there. I don't need you guys seeing like my password and everything. Okay, I just have to find it on my computer real quick. Free tracks, bops, sorry, not free tracks, free plugin chain. The one we just went over with all of this stuff, because it's all just stock EQ stuff, or stock plugins. That was the whole idea today. Hang on, I'm just gonna find it real quick on my system. You know what I could do is I can go into the settings over here and find out exactly where. Okay, it's there. Okay, documents over here. Studio One presets. User. Wait for it. Hang on. I have to look through all these things. Where is it? You know, I'll be honest, I've never done this before. That's my templates. That makes sense. That's a project. Where is it? Okay, hang on. We're getting closer. I've never done this before. Wonder if I could do it just in here. Unrelated question. Thank you, Ziggy, for dropping in the link for the Midnight Bar. Okay, so Secrets with this unrelated question. In the middle of a pretty big project, that's awesome to hear. Congratulations. And I'm wondering if you're using one of the Blackmagic ATEMs for your video switching. No, I'm using everything through OBS and a couple of different plugins that you can get through OBS. And I have a Stream Deck that allows me to cut through my different cameras. Those ATEM minis, though, are sick. If I had cameras that were like HDMI that I needed to do more so, most of my stuff, actually all of my stuff is USB right now. But if I was doing like a bunch of HDMI switching, that ATEM mini is definitely the way to go. This is definitely where I am, and underneath presets, it's not here. That's okay. That's all right. Effects chains. Here we go. I got it. I found it, you guys. All right, you guys can see this now. Zoop. Ready? I'm gonna drag this in for you guys. Stock Fat Channel Vocal Chain Insta is the one. I'm gonna upload it now. I'm gonna rename it Tim Talks Audio Vocal Chain. Description. In description, let's just talk like what it is. Based on the Instagram perfect vocal chain. Developed live on stream using stock plugins. Let's see, we did Pro EQ. Into that channel. Tube comp. Into let's go back over to Studio One and take a look at what it was. Compressor for de-essing. Into Fat Channel. Let's see, Vintage EQ into Fat Comp. I'm sure this is thrilling for you guys. Especially all those arrows on screen. That's got to be great. Then that goes into red light. And that goes into another Pro EQ. Audio previews. That we'll worry about later. Didn't talk to audio vocal chain. There it goes. Boom. Uploaded for you guys. Unpublish. I don't need to do any of that. What I'm gonna do. So you guys can find me on the Presonus Exchange. I wonder if I can. I don't know if I can share a link with you guys. Don't think I can. But if you guys go into the Exchange, you'll find it. Because now it's available for you guys. And you can see the exact thing I'm doing with everything that we've done. We have this live stream as a reference of what we've done and why we've done it. And the vocal example, wink, wink. Resonator at end. Will it run in version 4.6? It should. And High Capacity with subscribe to the channel. Thank you, High Capacity. It should run in 4.6. I don't think we used anything that wouldn't have worked. But, Bops, you saw how we developed it. If for some reason this doesn't work, you can use it, or you can recreate it in your version of Studio One. So let's catch up with you guys real quick. I thought I could steal the vocals. No, right now I don't have authorization to get these multi-tracks out there. But you now have the secret sauce for a cool vocal chain. Not the perfect vocal chain, but a very good one. There's lots of tools in here, lots of things that you can use in your productions. Also join the Discord, link in the description. Nice. Your system efficiency and low latency is as seductive as the lamb from a Christmas story. Well, this machine is not that efficient right now, but I have another one over here which I've been working on, and that thing is a beast. It's gonna turn into an even crazier beast once I really get into it, but we're not gonna get into that right now. So there you go. There's a nice vocal chain for you guys. I think I can do this. If I do this, come over here. If you're a Presonus Sphere member, that should work. If for some reason that link doesn't work, let me know. Or just search for me on the Exchange, and you should be able to find that. As I do these things with you guys, I think I'm going to start uploading some more things to the Exchange, because why not? That's why it's there. I hope you guys learned something. If I have any more questions, by all means, ask them. But I think we're going to get ready to say goodnight for this week, and then we'll come back next week. And Nick was asking at the very beginning, actually way before the beginning, he was asking for a live stream going over the details of the range tool. I can't really show you this because there's stuff coming up. Top secret. It's not secret, I don't care. All this stuff coming out anyway. So go ahead and grab this effects chain. I can't speak anymore. Go ahead and grab this effects chain. Use it in your productions. Make sure you manipulate it. You have to change these settings because they're not going to be perfect for your vocal in your production. But the tools are there and the relative settings are there. Dial them into your vocal. Pull it in, bypass everything, and slowly bring them in and notch some of those things out. Okay? Thanks for the op amp lesson. You're very welcome, Secret. I bet that we could gain a ton if we had a comprehensive cheat sheet which covers effects organized by frequency ranges. You could. You absolutely could. But how some developers create their plugins versus other developers is always different, and it's not really the same across the board. You know, how one company develops like an op amp style distortion versus another could be different, and that relative range, you know, it could be very close, it could be off by a lot. I hear what you're saying, but there's one thing you could do. Practice, listen, Practice, take lessons, mess around with stuff, push it way too hard, see what it's doing, and then dial it in. Go extreme, like, this hurts to listen to. But man, just turn the volume down and listen to what it's doing, how it's reacting, how the source material is responding to the thing you're doing, whether it be EQ, booster cuts, compression, saturation, reverb, blah, 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 everything. Push it hard, listen to what it's doing, and then scale it back just a little bit. So I think that's it for tonight. Let's see, Blaze joined really late and just wanted to drop in and say hi before I leave again. Blaze, 22 years. Happy anniversary, bud. 22 years is fantastic. Congratulations to you and to the missus. Here's to 22 more 22s on top of the 22. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a lot, but congratulations, bud. Yep, congratulations to Blades Bop. It is like okay, that's all for this evening. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out and learning some stuff and being enthusiastic. Bops was enthusiastic enough for everyone, but that's cool. I appreciate it. I really do. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. If you're in the U.S., happy Memorial Day. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. If you're not in the U.S., I hope you just have a great weekend, and we'll check you out next week when we are going over the range tool. Until then, have a great one. Bye-bye.